So I wasn't planning on putting out a video today, but when some of the biggest news in basketball breaks, a story we have been waiting to see for months, then yeah, we've got to talk and react about it. Now, I'm going to keep this one a little brief, and then I'll have a more in-depth video out on the implications of this trade for not only the teams involved, but as well as the rest of the league, because there is a lot to unpack here. And even at the time of me recording this, there could be follow-up trades that happen as a result of it. And even some of the details of this three-team trade are still being worked out as well. But either way, in a crazy turn of events, Damian Lillard has been traded to the Milwaukee Bucks as part of a three-team trade. Not the Miami Heat, not the Toronto Raptors, the Sixers, or the Bulls, all the teams that have been linked to trying to trade for Dame in recent days. No, it's the Bucks, who suddenly, I would say in the past 24 to 48 hours, had emerged as a contender to land Dame. And this is huge on so many levels. I mean, one being the fact that after the Bucks were starting to get under pressure of potentially losing Giannis in a couple of seasons when he becomes a free agent, the rumors swirling around that he was going to bounce because the Bucks and that core was eventually going to age out. And even Giannis said himself that he wasn't going to be signing an extension unless he felt that the team was committed to winning and building around him. Well, you just added a superstar point guard, a scoring machine, an elite offensive player to pair alongside one of the greatest players in the game of basketball currently, in Giannis Antetokounmpo. I mean, if all goes well and Dame is able to stay healthy, which isn't a given, by the way, then the Bucks are going to be a nasty team. I mean, you talk about two top 10 players in the league that complement each other's skill sets. That is a game changer. That said, though, I do think the Bucks are going to be hit a little harder with the loss of Holiday than they think. Yeah, Dame is clearly a better player than Jrue Holiday, but Holiday is a very underrated defender. They're going to lose that perimeter defense by adding in Lillard. And while Dame is a savvy veteran player, I do think there is something to be said about Holiday's leadership and how his overall IQ impacts the court. But then the other pieces of the trade. So as I mentioned, a three-team trade where the Blazers are actually going to be getting Jrue Holiday, who I'm sure they're going to flip for additional assets, but they also acquired DeAndre Ayton from the Suns, Toumani Camara, and an unprotected first-round pick from the Bucks in 2029 and pick swaps in 28 and in 30. It's not a bad haul, but honestly, I was a little surprised that the Blazers didn't push for more. That said, they're likely going to be able to get more when they actually move Jrue Holiday, but only one first-round pick and just the right to swap picks with the Bucks later down the line for their franchise player seems a bit low, especially when you consider what the Heat had at their disposal. Which, by the way, this trade is very bad for the Heat on so many levels when they had the opportunity to get Dame, but we'll save that for a different time. But in my view, kind of a mediocre return for the Blazers, even despite the fact that they didn't have the best leverage with Lillard at his current age and contract. But DeAndre Ayton, though, was not expecting him to be included in that deal. I mean, we all knew Ayton was likely going to be moved from the Suns eventually, just too much tension there over the last couple of seasons. His commitment, demeanor, everything seemed to point to the fact that he didn't want to be there. And for the Blazers, this is actually a solid pickup. A young center in his prime that fits their timeline more so than Nurkic does, is a better center than Nurkic is. And while, yeah, the motivation stuff, that does come into question with Ayton. Does he actually care about the game of basketball? At the end of the day, if it's just a matter of getting a change of scene, this could work out in the Blazers' favor, as he's a really skilled big man and could thrive alongside a young rookie point guard in Scoot Henderson. Now, what did the Suns get in this trade? Well, like I said, they're netting Nurkic along with Nasir Little, Keon Johnson, and Grayson Allen. I actually think the Suns got the worst end of this deal because while I get the fact that they had issues with Ayton and his overall maturity and motivation, they essentially downgraded at the center spot for Nurkic and added some role players, a little bit of shooting. I mean, I guess maybe it doesn't really matter in the grand scheme of things for the Suns because they still have their big three. They still have two of the top 10 players in the league in Kevin Durant and Devin Booker, and this is really more of a roster depth play than anything for them. But as far as the return when it comes to the outgoing talent versus what they brought in, I don't think they fared very well. And the next big question in all of this, though, is where is Jrue Holiday going? Traded to the Blazers, a team that is going to be rebuilding. He doesn't fit their timeline. And while I actually think it would be wise for the Blazers to hang on to Jrue for a year and mentor Scoot, we all know that's not going to happen. Holiday's not going to want that either. And so now it's a matter of finding the best fit for Holiday, who is more at the end of his career, but still a very impactful and valuable player. What's a contending team that has some young assets or draft capital that they could offer to the Blazers? I mean, first, I guess you have to consider the Miami Heat, although I'm sure Pat Riley is pissed about them not getting Dame and wants no part of doing business with the Blazers after that. But as I mentioned, for the Heat, this isn't a good offseason for them. When you consider they lost Max Strus, Gabe Vincent, didn't get their superstar prize who wanted to come to Miami and Miami only, they've got to do some damage control. And one way to do that is by landing a strong veteran point guard in Jrue Holiday. They have the assets to get Holiday, especially if they still want to consider adding Tyler Hero into the deal, who would fit the Blazers' timeline but not really the best fit roster-wise. Or maybe a team like the Sixers. They need a point guard, especially with James Harden likely on his way out. Do the Celtics even try and make a run for Holiday? Or maybe the Bulls? I mean, I think it's unlikely, but the Bulls absolutely should be taking calls to see if they can bring in Holiday for a team that desperately needs a floor general, a playmaking point guard who is great on both ends of the floor. I mean, ever since losing Lonzo due to the injury, they absolutely need that. Honestly, there are a lot of teams that should be vying for Jrue Holiday, and I'll likely have a video out on some potential trade options and packages that make sense. For now, I'm still just trying to wrap my head around this insane trade and really just wanted to get a reaction video out speaking off the cuff about it. So this is probably sounding a little bit all over the place, a bit disorganized. I'll have something out a little more buttoned up in the coming days, but wow, Damian Lillard to the Milwaukee Bucks. I hope for the Bucks' sake he actually wants to be there, because he did say before he was only going to be playing for Miami and would try and force a trade if he was moved to a different team. That could turn out to be entertaining if that does actually end up being the case. But let me know what you guys think in the comments. As always, be sure to subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.